So today I'm going to talk about the date calculation external module, and what the date calculation external module allows you to do is take a field that's a date field and calculate other dates based off of that. So if you have follow-up dates, that are 1 week, 1 month, 6 months down the road, and you have different events, and you want to automatically populate those dates with the proper date instead of you having to do the math and calculate and figure out when that's going to be. The date calculation external module does that for you, and it doesn't have to be separate events. It could be in one instrument. We had a project a while back that they wanted to list the schedule of appointments for a person based on the date they were randomized, and based on that date the person would have a follow-up, like a 1 month, 2 month, 3 months, and they had like 6 different follow-up appointments, and they just wanted to see when these would be, and these were sort of the estimated appointments, and then they had another field that was the actual appointment, so they kind of had give or take a couple of days. The person came in a little early or a little late, they could show that the person was within that range based on the estimated dates. And I think Terry ended up doing that with some scripting a while back. So this module would actually do that for you now. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to enable the module. And if you need a module enabled, as always, email us at redcap@arizona.edu, and we will enable it for you. Just let us know the name or the project ID and which module you would like, and we would do that for you. So let me just explain kind of what I'm going to do today. If we go to the designer here, there's a date calculation demo that I've created. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this date registered as my baseline date for this example. And then when I enter a date here, I want it to automatically calculate what the week follow-up would be, what the month would be, 6 months, 12, and these min and max I'll show you later, and then we're going to do the 6 month and 12 month. So let's go to the configuration page and I'll walk you through that. So the first field that we're going to put in is the date we want to read from, and that's going to be our date registered. So we're basing all of our calculations off of that field. Now it gives you one set of fields for one field where you want to pipe in. So the destination field we want for this first one is the week follow-up. And now we get to decide how we want to adjust it. If we leave it blank, it defaults by days, but we have days and months. So right now we want to put days in, and then the next field lets us put in how many days we want to offset it by. So if you want a date that's in the past, we would just put -7. But if we want a date that's in the future, we would put +7. And then we don't need to pipe into any other events, and none of these we're going to be worrying about right now. So this would be the first field setup that we have. So now we have multiple dates that we want to put in. So what we do is we come back up here to where we want to pipe, and we hit the plus sign, and what that does is it gives us a whole other set of dates to add. So once again, our destination field is going to be different now. Instead of the week, it's going to be the month follow-up, and then we're going to adjust it by a month. So this is nice because some months are 30 days, some months are 31. So instead of you having to kind of decide whether you want to overshoot it or undershoot it, you could just say I want it in months instead of days. So that's the only one we have to put in for the month follow-up. We click the plus sign again to add another one. And then the next one we're going to do is the 6 month follow-up. So we'll add 6 months to that, and then we'll click the plus sign again to add another one. And then we want the 12 month follow-up, which is here. We're going to click months, and we're going to say 12. And that's it for all those calculations that we have. So if we save that, and we go to a record. So now I'm just going to put in the first January 1st because then that's easy to show you the math and you know what dates they're going to be. So if we do this and then I hit tab, it's going to automatically give me those dates. So the next 1 week follow-up would be on the 8th. 1 month follow-up would be on February 1st. 6 months from that would be 7/1. And then a year from now would be January 1st, 2020. So the next thing that we can do, we'll go back to this external modules. We'll just go ahead and save. The next thing I'm going to show you is down here where the 12-month is. So let's say you want that 12-month date to be exact, but you want to give them some wiggle room. What you can do is add the min and max. You have multiple fields. One is for the min, and the one is for the max. So what is the earliest date they can come in, and what is the latest date that they can come in? And so in order to do that, we go down here to the start date range field, and we're going to say this is the field that I want to put this minimum value in, and that's going to be this 12-month min. And then where's the field that I want to put my max value in, and that will be the max. And now down here we get to say how many days we want to offset that by. So let's just say 30 days. If it's going to be in a year, we'll give them 30 days on either side. So if we save that and we add another record, so we'll go back to January 1st. And remember, these fields were blank. This min and this max field was blank the last time I did it. So now if I do it again, they're all there. So you could have these set as read-only fields that just kind of show your, the user or the person who's entering the date that this is the minimum date that they can be in. And actually, it looks like it gave it to me in years. That's interesting. Oh, that's what it did. It did it in months, I guess. Let me look real quick.
Yeah, that looks like 30 months.
Yeah. So let's go back down here. So if we do 12 months, well, we'll probably have to change this one to days then, 365, and then we'll change it, keep this at 30 and 30. So let's go back. Interesting. It only gave me the one. These things always work out great when I'm testing them at home, and then when I do them live, then we always have problems. Such is life.
Do you want to just change the 30 to 1 and then keep it as months?
Oh, that's a good call.
I don't know. I'm making this up. I'm learning it with you right now. Do you want to change the 365 back to 12?
Yes. Thank you. So I think that looks good. Let's go back and try it again.
It's a little misleading because it said days to add in that text box.
Right. Because that's what I must not have paid attention to the dates last night when I was doing it. Just saw that there was a value in there. But you're right. It should be days. I don't know why it added months. Oh, there we go. So this would be.
That one messed up too.
Oh, you know what it is? It's
Do you
because.
have to put minus? Do you have to put a minus in it?
Yeah,
Okay.
you're correct.
I'll just leave without saving changes. Okay, now we got it. So they would have to follow up on January 1st, 2020, but they could come in as early as December 1st or as late as February 1st. Now, hopefully this is indicative of the rest of this demo, because this is actually the easy part. So what you can do is pipe, instead of having all these events or all these dates listed on a single instrument, you can have these dates longitudinally through different events as you go. So if we go to my project setup, I've created events here for the days to offset, and then the offset range. So just an enrollment, a baseline, a 1 month, 6 month, 1 year, 2 year, and 5 year follow-up. And if we go to my events, or my instruments for my events, you'll see that I have an enrollment form, and then I have blood draw forms, and each of these forms are going to get repeated for each of the events. So now if I go back to, let me show you the design of this. So in my enrollment form, I'm going to be using this enrollment date as the date that I'm going to be basing all my calculations off of. And then if we go to the blood draw, I have the minimum date, I have a scheduled date, which is going to be the date that it's actually going to calculate, and then this is going to be the minimum of the date, and this is going to be the maximum of the date, and then I have a field that's just the actual date. These three fields, the top three fields, are going to be read-only. That way nobody can go in and change them, and then these are kind of the estimated dates, and then this you would put in as like they actually came in on this date. So that's what we're going to build now. So if we go back to the external module, and we can just delete these. And then what we want to do now is we're going to have our enrollment date as our date to read, and then our destination field is going to be this date scheduled, so the draw date scheduled. And now this is going to be a little different because this is going to be the same field for all of these. We just have to change these values. So let me just get back to the defaults here. So we're going to want to use the dates, the adjusted dates that we have in our events, and so we would leave this blank, and we leave this blank as well because we're bringing in that calculation, that range, or that value rather, from our events. So then we're going to say that we want this pipe to other events. And the first event that we're going to pipe to is our enrollment. And then we want the values, instead of us entering the field, we would put the field in, but instead of us entering the ranges down here, we're going to say give me the range off of the enrollment. And then this one is the event we're piping to is the baseline blood draw. But we want to start piping from the enrollment because that's where we're pulling this date from. You can do it like if you want the dates to kind of stagger from each event, you would just tell it you want the date coming from the previous event for the next event and so on. But we're starting with the enrollment event, which is going to be the first one, and we want it to base it off of that one for all of them going down the line. So now we're going to say which field we want to pipe it to for the min, and that's going to be this draw date min, and then for the max, it's going to be the draw date max. And then we leave these blank because the offsets we already calculated, or we already put those values in when we created the events. So if you didn't create those in the events, you could put them in here, but we wouldn't have to. So now what we do, this is for our baseline blood draw. So now we click again, and this one is going to be for our 1 month blood draw. So once again we want the enrollment date, or sorry, we want the draw date. Hold on real quick. We want to pipe it to the scheduled date. So the enrollment date was the value up here at the top. We only have to put that in once. So we want the draw date, the scheduled draw date, and we want this to be an event. We want to pipe to other events, and the event we want to pipe it to is the 1 month draw, and the date we want to base it off of is the event enrollment, and then once again we want the min and the max. So that's all set up for the 1 month. And then we'll do it again. So this will be the draw date scheduled. And then we have the event. The event we want to pipe it to is the 6 month. And then we want to base it off the enrollment. And then we want the min and the max. So that's our 6 month. And then for our 12 month, we want date scheduled. We want it for an event. We want it to the, which one were we on? 6 months, so we're on the year now. And we want it off the enrollment and the min and the max again. The 2 year now, and then we want the enrollment again, and then min and max. And then finally, want the 5 year, so we get the scheduled. Okay, I believe that's everything. Let's try it. So just to remind you, let me go back to my project setup and show you what we did. So the first date is, there's not going to be an offset. We're basing it off of this enrollment date. Now the next record in the event, the baseline event, is going to be 14 days off, and it's going to have a plus or minus of 3. The 1 month is going to be 31 days off, and it's going to be plus or minus 3, and then so on. And then all the way down here, we're going to give them kind of a month of leeway. So now that we have that built, let's go to the add edit records here, and I'll add another one. Now this time I'm going to go into my enrollment form, and then once again I'm just going to select January 1st. And then if we save and exit the form, you'll see here now that all of these have a value in them. They're marked as incomplete because REDCap put data in those. So if we go to the baseline blood draw, 1 week later, which is the draw date scheduled, it's going to be 1/15, but 3 days before that it's the 12th, and 3 days after that it's the 18th. So then if the person came in and actually came in on the 17th, then we would just save that. You know, it's within, and you could probably do some of the date calculation fields or any of that kind of stuff to show that whether they're within range or not in range. So that's for the baseline. If we go to the 1 month, it's on February 1st. The 6 month should be, and it should be July 1st, but because of the way the days are and because we're doing 30 days, it's going to give a range. It's not exact. And if you wanted it to be exact, instead of us putting in the values based on the events that we did, you would just take those values and put them in manually. So you would say 6 months instead of saying pull it from this event. So if we save that one, that's 6 months. And a year will be January 1st, 2020. And then 2 years. See, that one's a little off. It's a day off, but, you know, and that once again, you would put that you want it for 24 months instead of, 365 days, or using the event. And then 5 years down the road, so that's 12/31/2023, and then we're giving them a month on either side to have their values. So that's pretty much the extent of it. Does anybody have any questions or would like to see anything?
Somebody wrote a question in the chat box. I don't know if you saw it.
I did not. Let me see.
Yes, that was me, Manny. So the question is, will this talk directly to our scheduling and calendar model?
I don't think so. I think it only talks to that events page. Those are the only things that you can do. I don't think you can tie it to the scheduling model. In the documentation, it doesn't mention anything about that, so I would just say no.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? So that's it for the date calculation demo. While I have you guys on here, I did want to show you that from last week, all of the REDZone videos are up. They're current as of last week, and we did the color matrix demo last week, and Terry and I tried to figure out a way to create a template or a project that you guys could use that had the HTML hex code values in it. That way you didn't have to try to build the colors yourself, and we couldn't figure out a way to create a project that you guys could just use as a template, or without us having to create a project every time for you or copy it for you and give you access. So what we did was created just a document here that shows the values. So this is the first example that I had, the red to blue, and then this just has the values in it, so you could just copy paste yourself for those 10 values. And the same thing for the one that goes the blue gradient. It has these hex values in here. So that way you could just download this form off of the website here, and then you can just create it yourself. We would still have to enable the color matrix external module for you, but then you guys would be able to put in the code yourself, or you don't have to use those codes, but then it's just you don't have to go searching for them. And then I also tried to rebuild it using Shazam, or not Shazam, the CSS injector. But the way that those radio buttons are referenced, there's no way to reference the background of the cell that the radio button is in. You can do it in Chrome or Firefox in the developer mode, but there's no way to write a rule for it. So, because I was hoping that I'd be able to do it with the CSS injector, that way you have the options of having multiple colors depending on which matrix boxes you use. If you had multiple sets of matrix fields and you wanted to color them separately, but that wasn't working out. So I'm still thinking about trying to figure out a way to do it for you guys. But as of now, you can only use one color scheme, and you can only assign it to one matrix field in your project. So that's a limitation of this external module. So any questions or any comments?